Hello everybody, welcome. I'm No02. Thank you for watching this video. This is our Act-6 guide walkthrough video for the second mission emergency broadcast, and I think we need to listen. We need to listen. There's something very neat about this map. You hear that? I don't know if you can quite hear that. Turn up the volume. You hear those echoey cries of the Ridden off in the distance? Right there, did you hear that? If you can't, well, let me tell you what's happening here. This is one of the few missions in the game, the only one that I can think of right now, but I think there's other missions too. We can hear if a hive has spawned in this mission from the safe room without opening the door. Why is that important? I'm not going to be I'm not going to encourage this, but before you open up the safe room door, you can safely leave your game and come back any number of times without using a continua. You can do it infinitely. So, if you're looking for an easier time, you can, I believe, potentially reload this mission over and over and over again, and potentially hear if there is a hive or not, and get a hive spawn, or basically force the issue. I do want to couple this with that. There has been some, I think, some secret updates, some back-end updates. The knowledge that I have that I'm pulling from here as to why this reloading works and how it changes the missions is that I have played through missions and then would leave and reload them and would get different bosses. I would go through a mission, get a breaker boss, and then reload it and get a hag boss, and then reload it and get an ogre boss, and things like that. And so sometimes reloading the missions can work. And also, too, very specifically, for hives, I would farm hives for getting skull totems, and I would just play through a campaign. I would play the first mission. I would play the crossing right before. It was a long-winded tangent now. I would reload a mission over and over and over again to get a hive on a map that's really fast to get into a hive. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, anyways, we got to move on here. We're wasting too much time. There's a hive in this mission. That's the point. Be sure to check the timestamps here. Great place to hold out. Anything that bad happens at the very beginning of the mission here, hold out at the boat here. Got the minigun. It's really good. Now, again, traversing any open area, left or right, is typically the way to go. Don't want to go down the middle. I personally like going like this waterfront, even though there's like a weird, opportunity like for knockback. Well, these guys like to go left. You can poke your head in and loot these cars, and you can see that, like, food and stuff spawns over here. If you're not really running any scavenger cards in no hope mode, then a lot of the times, a lot of this loot is just not of concern. Once you get to this point, though, if you get a Horde timer or something bad happens, this right here is a relatively decent holdout spot. Nothing spawns up here, as far as I know. Tested it many, many times, and nothing has. Keep in mind with the, random RNG spawn points of this game. It may not be the case for you. But once we're here, our line of sights are this corner and over there. Sort of like over here. In a relatively easy place to hold out. Let me sort of just get on in here. I would say don't linger in this area if something bad is happening, because enemies are dropping down on top of you. Try to get into this corner if you need to take a fight. Take some green beans. And we're on the move. Now in the parking structure, there are sweepers. Now in the parking structure, I find that enemies can spawn from underneath some of these cars. I need to have an ammo reload in these guys. That's what I've come to learn. Now, we have a forced Horde event here with the timer. You can do some cheeky stuff here if you do have a Horde event timer like we do in the top right, which you can't see because the freaking camera's there. Which is fine. I'm not going to move it. We're not going to worry about it. But if you do have a Horde event timer, like we do right here, you can stack them together with this. You let this Horde event trigger first, and as soon as it triggers, you then flip a switch, you know? Keep in mind that in no hope mode, all of these doors would be alarms for the most part. You can, if you want to be extra greedy, trigger a Horde event, and then linger by these doors a little bit, and that will allow enemies to break the doors down. Enemies can't break down alarm doors unless it's a Horde event, and then that rule is removed and they'll break down all of the doors. Keep in mind that I would not recommend holding out. Would not recommend holding out in these rooms. That's a spawn point. Once you're in this room, enemies are spawning just right outside the door. It gets real clustery in here. Not ideal. Where we are going to hold out, though, for this section, I would recommend these two corners. Sort of walking back and forth in them. In fact, I would recommend looting these cars and then preemptively blowing them up, because these cars are just close enough to the corners that... Take that for fast reload. Those cars are just close enough to the corner that if they do blow up, they're going to hurt you. Here, I'm going to work my way into the corner. I sort of like standing by the door a little bit. Once we're in the door, right at the door, you can see our line of sight is this side of the van. Oh, the bots are doing. The bots got stuck up right there. Our line of sight is through that doorway right there. Notice here that as we stand here, the bomber people, the swarmers, have to just round the corner enough. You hear? There's an audio indicator that that door is being opened, and enemies will come out of it. So just keep that in mind. Wouldn't necessarily recommend running in the door, forcing your way through it too early. And that's that. Opportunity for loot. Because for the most part, the Horde event ends once that door opens, and they're just sort of the remnants of enemies left over. Next here, for the most part, there's nothing really too fancy or special going on here. Other than just standard good play, right? Keep your back against the wall as much as possible. Horde event's about to happen. If we could have the choice of picking a Horde event, we want to be in this room. This room is a great place to check for loot. Looting is always a risk reward. Because the more time we take to loot, the more opportunity for mutations to spawn. If we have a Horde event like we do here, the more time we take means the more Horde events we potentially take. But when it comes to looting this room is a really nice place to loot because it's also a really good holdout spot. So it's sort of worth your time to sort of check it out. Loot it anyways. And then it's cleared. You can take a fight there if you need to later on. Back, excess supplies are in there, things like that. So very little risk in checking that room for the most part, or at least the benefit is high. Now, I have done a lot of work to figure out these elevators. And when I say a lot of work, playing through this mission specifically, many times, on no hope mode. You can open up these elevator doors. You can only... These two buttons are one and the same. Pushing one deactivates the other. Inside these doors could be loot. Inside them could be ridden. Or both. Now, in no hope mode, in recruit mode it's a little bit different. There's more loot in recruit mode, so I find that in recruit mode we're going to open up these doors, and both elevator doors will have loot behind them. What I found in no hope mode is this. Most of the time, one of them will have loot in them. Sometimes, none of them will have ridden in them. Sometimes they both have ridden. Sometimes the ridden are in the loot room, right? So, if you're looking for extra loot in no hope mode, feel free to push the button. but there is a risk with it, right? And in recruit mode, there's always extra loot. I will say that if you're willing to take the risk in no hope mode, it's really not a big deal a lot of the times. You just, you're prepared for it, your weapons reloaded, things like that. I will say, though, in no hope mode, if the first elevator that you open up has loot in it, I won't open up the second one. Because in no hope mode, my experience has been, if one elevator has loot, the other one does not. That's been my experience. It may not be the experience that you have. It's probably very possible for there to be loot in both elevators in no hope mode. It just seems unlikely from my experience. Notice a good principle here for holding out. Long line of sight. Long line of sight. This corner of the staircase, the great holdout spot. We're always sort of like looking at the game in terms of choke points, basically. Work your way here. Now, I highly recommend, very specifically for this mission in no hope mode, the bots have lots of lives. The holdout event on top of the roof here for the satellites, very, very hard, very, very annoying in no hope mode. I highly recommend opening up this toolkit room. Opposed to the first mission, in this mission, toolkit room I think is a must-have. I would even recommend buying a toolkit yourself if you're worried about your bot, one of your bots maybe dying before getting there. Do we want at least three? Ideally, we want all 3 bots alive. So maybe you consider buying like a defib. The bot that you have with the toolkit lives. You get to the room, you open it up, you backtrack, you defib the bot or something like that. But I would recommend lingering here, getting your bots filled up of lives, giving them full life. Getting your bots full of life. One thing to note, too, that we have a horde event about to happen. These elevator rooms, relatively good holdout spots. Keep in mind that's a spawn point, right? But if you want to sort of linger out in the hallway a little bit. And then if anything bad happens, we start getting overwhelmed, we can always back up into the elevator room. So in recruit mode, most of the time both elevators have loot in them. Both had Ridden in them. Is that bad luck? I don't really know. And I tend to find that in no hope mode, both elevators have Ridden in them as well. But sometimes you get no Ridden in the elevator. Sometimes you get just one of them. But again, right, staircase, great holdout spot. We're basically just working our way through the map now, right? Systematically, good standard gameplay. Back against the wall. Hiya! Where's the card? Just above us? Go, go, go. Keep in mind that loot can spawn in between this cabinet. And here, don't get worried about like holding out horde events here. If you want to hold out a horde event here, yeah, the staircase again, great place to hold out. A nice long line of sights and room to maneuver. The only thing you need to worry about is a wretch. Now, I would recommend here, sort of like jumping out into the unknown, because we're not frozen or whatever. I typically will get to the window, shoot enemies from the window to aggro them, and sort of back up. A little trick with ammo. We have 6 bullets. Ranch rifle has 15 rounds in it. We'll pick this up. We have 15 bullets in our gun and 6 rounds. I don't know why I did that, but we got the ammo from this ranch rifle. An old trick. I've been talking about that trick for a long time. Picking up a weapon that has not been picked up by another player gives you the ammo in its magazine. So, this is it. This is one of the hardest parts of the campaign. Hardest part of this mission. What we need to talk about here is, where do we stand? There's no real good corner to stand, I would say. That's a spawn point. This is the spawn point. Enemies will sort of jump over. Spawn point, spawn point, spawn point, spawn point. As well as sort of like right here at the spawn point. So literally, there are no corners. So I recommend holding out for this event. Right here on the minigun. Right here, sort of just in this sort of general area. Lingering right here. We're basically equidistant from all of the windows, all the spawn points, and we sort of just hope for the best here. Good RNG, lots of enemies spawn right here. Now, these side doors, there's basically two side rooms. They will open up eventually. We are moving through satellite. Notice the objective in the top left. Wait for comma rays to align. Right before that objective turns into 2 out of 3, one of these side doors will open, or one of these side rooms will open. Which one is RNG? I don't know how to tell which one it is, if there's a way to manipulate, no idea. But just as the second satellite finishes aligning, or just before, one of these side doors will open up, and I highly recommend getting the heck into those rooms. You can sort of finagle one side or the other, or like right here, like, oh man, this looks scary. You can sort of just, however you want to hedge your bets, right? Feel free to do so. But once one of these opens up, I do recommend getting into them. Again, not the greatest rooms, pretty shallow, pretty short line of sights. You know, if you got swarmers on this mission, there are swarmers can easily hang out of sight and, you know, shoot bees at you. And the Nicolas Cage inside of all of us is upset. So that would be my recommendation. Is as soon as one of these side doors opens up, just get inside of them. Play around with it though. Maybe you had more success getting out there, but for the most part, in no hope mode, it just becomes pure chaos. We're taking full advantage of a well-made deck and the boss extra lives and things like that. And we're more than happy to get a win here at the expense of like 5, 6, 7 bot lives. Really? And then it ends. Hang out until it's all over. When we got the gate. Hello? There we go. Now again, just like the lighthouse pathing, the pathing I'm going to be showing and demonstrating very specific. There's some corners that we can kind of cut. This is a pretty easy run back. This is the verticality that we can like traverse, even though we're only going one way. Sort of always in our favor. Enemies have to like jump up, and when enemies are animating a mantle or something like that, they lose collision. There's a lot of benefit for just like going up and down and things like that. We do have a Horde event though. We'll just hold off against this Horde event, or maybe we don't care. So we'll just go. We get very specific pathing. You can sort of like, oh my god, you can sort of crouch jump over the broken part of this fence onto here. And then keep in mind here, we're going to skip this platform. Don't jump off, just sprint off. You want to just sort of like hit just barely the lip right there, otherwise you'll take some fall damage. Corner here. Jump over. Again, super straight line. Jumping on top of a car, right? Enemies might have to mantle to get to you, things like that. Any like change in elevation that you can do is really good for helping you like basically dodge a hit from a rhythm that's possibly really close. Where is the river of blood? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Thoughts, comments, ideas, concerns, problems, let me know in the comments and help address them in the future. Which is also where I'll see you.